Marcus Johnson, a 34-year-old security guard struggling to make ends meet, makes a simple act of kindness during a thunderstorm that will completely change his life. When he shares his only umbrella with a soaked stranger outside the luxury office building where he works, he has no idea that this elderly man is actually the building's billionaire owner, and that this moment of compassion will lead to an unexpected meeting that transforms everything. Hey everyone, before we dive into Marcus's story, tell us in the comments, what city or country are you watching from? It's incredible how these human stories connect us all, no matter where we are in the world. The rain hammered against the glass windows of the Meridian Tower like bullets, each drop exploding into 1,000 smaller pieces before sliding down in chaotic streams. Marcus Johnson pulled his security guard jacket tighter around his shoulders, watching the storm rage outside from his post in the marble lobby. The weather app on his cracked phone screen had promised light showers. This looked more like the end of the world. Typical Chicago weather, he muttered, checking his watch. 6:47 p.m. 13 more minutes until his shift ended, and then he'd have to face that storm himself. The lobby was nearly empty now. Most of the white-collar workers had fled hours ago when the first drops started falling, their expensive cars whisking them away to warm suburban homes. Marcus had watched them leave with a familiar knot in his stomach, the same feeling he got every time he was reminded of the gulf between his world and theirs. His phone buzzed. A text from his sister, Denise. "Marcus, can you help with Mom's prescription this month? Insurance is being difficult again." He stared at the message, his throat tightening. The prescription cost $180. His rent was already 2 weeks late, and he'd been surviving on ramen noodles and whatever free coffee the office provided. But this was his mother's heart medication. There was no choice. "I'll figure it out," he typed back, though he had no idea how. The front door chimed, and Marcus looked up to see a figure stumbling through the entrance, soaked to the bone. An elderly man in his 70s, wearing what had once been an expensive suit, but was now plastered to his thin frame. His grey hair was matted against his skull, and his glasses were so fogged up that Marcus wondered how he could see anything at all. "Sir, are you all right?" Marcus stood up from his desk, instinctively reaching for the towel he kept behind his chair for situations like this. The old man looked up, blinking owlishly through his steamed glasses. My car broke down about 6 blocks from here. The rain it came out of nowhere." His voice carried the refined accent of someone who'd spent decades in boardrooms, but right now he looked as vulnerable as anyone Marcus had ever seen. "Here, take this." Marcus handed him the towel. "You're completely drenched. Did you call for help?" "My phone died." The man accepted the towel gratefully, wiping his face. "I was trying to find somewhere to wait it out, but everywhere's closed or packed. Your building was the only place with lights on." Marcus glanced at the clock. 6:52 p.m. In 8 minutes, he'd have to lock up and leave. The building's strict policy was clear: no unauthorized persons after hours. But looking at this shivering old man, policy seemed less important than basic human decency. "What's your name, sir?" William Chen." The man extended a wrinkled hand. "And you are?" "Marcus Johnson. I'm the evening security guard here." Marcus shook the offered hand, noting how cold it was. "Listen, Mr. Chen, I'm supposed to lock up in a few minutes, but you can't go back out in this weather. Not in your condition." William looked toward the windows, where the storm seemed to be intensifying rather than letting up. "I don't want to get you in trouble with your job." "Don't worry about that." Marcus made a decision that surprised even himself. "You can stay here until it calms down. There's a coffee machine in the break room if you want something warm." As he led William toward the back of the lobby, Marcus caught sight of his reflection in the polished marble wall. His uniform was crisp and clean. He made sure of that every day, but it couldn't hide the weariness in his eyes, the slight stoop in his shoulders that came from too many double shifts and too much worry about money. At 34, he sometimes felt twice his age. William accepted the coffee gratefully, wrapping his pale hands around the paper cup. "You didn't have to do this, you know. Most people would have just pointed me toward the door. My mama raised me better than that," Marcus said, settling into the chair across from him. "She always said you help people when they need it, period. Doesn't matter if they can help you back. Your mother sounds like a wise woman." "She is. She's..." Marcus hesitated, then found himself opening up to this stranger in a way he rarely did with anyone. "She's been sick for a while. Heart problems. The medical bills are, well, they're tough. But she's the strongest person I know." William nodded slowly. "It's hard watching the people we love struggle." "Yeah, it is." Marcus checked his phone again. Still no ideas about how to come up with the money for his mother's prescription. But we figure it out, you know. We always do. They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, listening to the rain continue its assault on the windows. Marcus found himself studying William more closely. Despite being soaked and clearly shaken, there was something dignified about the old man. His posture, even while shivering, suggested someone accustomed to command. His watch, though water-damaged, looked expensive. Everything about him whispered wealth and success, which made his current predicament all the more striking. "You know," William said suddenly, "I've been coming to this neighborhood for 40 years, and I don't think I've ever really noticed this building before. It's beautiful architecture." Marcus smiled. "Yeah, it's something else. 1920s Art Deco. I've been working here for 3 years and I still find new details in the stonework. See that carving up there?" He pointed to an elaborate relief near the ceiling. "That's supposed to represent progress and prosperity. Kind of ironic, considering most of us working here are just trying to keep our heads above water." William followed his gaze. "You seem to know a lot about architecture." "I studied it, actually. Got my degree from UIC before." Marcus trailed off, realizing he was sharing more than he'd intended. Before life got in the way, I guess. Turns out having a degree doesn't guarantee anything, especially when your family needs you to start earning money right away. What would you build if you could build anything? The question caught Marcus off guard. When was the last time anyone had asked him about his dreams? "Community centers," he said without hesitation. "Places where kids from neighborhoods like mine could go after school, where families could get services they need. Buildings that serve people, not just impress them." William's eyes sharpened with interest. "That's a beautiful vision. It's just a dream now," Marcus said, checking the storm outside. It seemed to be finally letting up. "Dreams don't pay the bills." As if summoned by his words, his phone buzzed again. This time it was his landlord. "Marcus, need that rent by Friday or we'll have to discuss next steps." William noticed his expression. "Everything all right?" Marcus forced a smile. "Just life being life." He stood up, gathering the coffee cups. "Looks like the rain's stopping. You should be able to get home safely now." But as William prepared to leave, Marcus made an impulsive decision. Outside he could see the rain had indeed lightened, but it was still coming down steadily. The old man would be soaked again within minutes. "Here," Marcus said, pulling out his umbrella. His only umbrella, the one he'd need for his own journey home. "Take this." William stared at the offered umbrella. "I can't take your umbrella. How will you get home?" "I'll figure it out, I always do." Marcus pressed the umbrella into William's hands. "Besides, you've got further to go than I do." For a moment, William just stood there, holding the umbrella as if it weighed 1,000 pounds. When he looked up at Marcus, there was something unreadable in his expression. Surprise, gratitude, and something else Marcus couldn't quite identify. "Thank you, Marcus Johnson," William said quietly. "You have no idea what this means to me." Marcus watched through the glass doors as the old man disappeared into the Chicago night, protected by his umbrella. Only then did he realize he had no idea how he was going to get home without getting soaked himself. But somehow, as he locked up the Meridian Tower and prepared to face the storm with nothing but his jacket, Marcus felt lighter than he had in months. Sometimes, doing the right thing was its own reward. He had no way of knowing that his simple act of kindness had just set in motion a chain of events that would change his life forever. Marcus arrived at work the next morning with his hair still damp from the rain. He'd ended up jogging the 12 blocks home, using his jacket as makeshift protection against the storm. By the time he'd reached his apartment, he was soaked through, but something about the run had felt almost liberating. Maybe it was the endorphins, or maybe it was the memory of William Chen's grateful smile as he disappeared into the night with the umbrella. "You look like hell, Johnson," called out Dave Martinez, the day security guard, as he gathered his things from the desk. "Rough night? Just Chicago weather," Marcus replied, settling into his chair and checking the overnight incident reports. "Anything interesting happen?" "Nah, quiet as usual." "Oh, except..." Dave paused at the door. "Some old guy came by around 8 this morning asking about you. Wouldn't give his name, just said he wanted to thank the evening security guard for helping him last night." Marcus looked up sharply. "Did he leave a message?" "Just said he'd be back." Dave shrugged. "Probably just wants to return whatever you lent him. See you tomorrow, man." As Dave left, Marcus tried to focus on his morning routine, checking the building's security feeds, reviewing the day's visitor list, organizing the sign-in sheets, but he couldn't shake the image of William Chen from his mind. There had been something about the old man that didn't quite add up. The expensive watch, the quality of his suit despite being waterlogged, the way he'd carried himself even while shivering and lost. Around 10:30 a.m., Marcus's phone rang at the security desk. The caller ID showed an internal extension he didn't recognize. "Security desk, this is Marcus." "Mr. Johnson?" The voice was crisp, professional, unmistakably that of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "This is Catherine Walsh, executive assistant to the building's owner. Could you please come up to the 42nd floor at your earliest convenience?" Marcus felt his stomach drop. The 42nd floor was the penthouse level, home to the building's executive offices. In 3 years of working here, he'd never been called upstairs. This could only mean one thing: he was in trouble. "Is everything all right, ma'am? Did I do something wrong?" "Not at all, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Chen would simply like to speak with you. The elevator will be programmed to take you directly to our floor." "Mr. Cheney." Marcus's heart began to race. "I'll be right up." The elevator ride to the 42nd floor felt like an eternity. Marcus caught his reflection in the polished steel doors and tried to straighten his uniform, smooth down his hair. His mind raced through possibilities. Had he broken some rule by letting William into the building after hours? Was he about to be fired for violating security protocol? The elevator doors opened directly into a reception area that looked like something from a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of Lake Michigan, and the furniture looked like it cost more than Marcus made in a year. Behind a massive mahogany desk sat a woman in her 50s with silver hair and the kind of confidence that came from years of handling powerful people. "Mr. Johnson," she said, standing to greet him. "I'm Catherine Walsh. Thank you for coming up. Is everything okay?" "I mean, about last night." Catherine smiled, the first warm expression Marcus had seen since stepping off the elevator. "Everything is more than okay. Please follow me." She led him down a hallway lined with original artwork, not prints, but actual paintings that Marcus suspected were worth more than most people's houses. They stopped at a set of double doors made from what looked like solid oak. "He's waiting for you inside," Catherine said, opening the doors. The office beyond was massive, easily larger than Marcus's entire apartment. But what struck him wasn't the size or the obvious expense of everything. It was the man sitting behind the enormous desk, looking completely different from the lost, shivering figure from the night before. William Chen wore a perfectly tailored navy suit, his grey hair impeccably styled, his glasses replaced with what were clearly designer frames. He looked exactly like what he was, one of the most powerful men in Chicago. "Marcus," William said, standing and walking around the desk with a warm smile. "Please sit down. I hope Catherine didn't worry you too much with the mysterious summons." Marcus remained standing, his mind reeling. You own this building." "I own several buildings, actually. But yes, the Meridian Tower is mine." William gestured to one of the leather chairs facing his desk. "Please sit, we have a lot to discuss." Marcus sank into the chair, which was more comfortable than his bed at home. "I don't understand. Last night you were lost, soaked, and completely dependent on the kindness of a stranger," William finished. "Yes, I was. My driver had the night off. My phone died just as my car broke down, and I found myself in a situation I haven't experienced in decades, completely helpless. But you could have told me who you were. I would have—" "What? Treated me differently?" William's eyes sharpened. "Called your supervisor? Maybe arranged for a company car to pick me up while you went through proper channels?" Marcus opened his mouth to deny it, then realized William was probably right. If he'd known he was dealing with the building's owner, everything would have changed. The coffee, the conversation, the umbrella, it all would have been different, calculated, careful. "Instead," William continued, "you treated me like a human being who needed help. You shared your coffee, your time, and ultimately your umbrella with a complete stranger. Do you have any idea how rare that is?" "I just did what anyone would do." "No, Marcus. You did what you would do, what your character compelled you to do." William returned to his chair but leaned forward, his expression intent. "I've spent the morning learning about you. Did you know that in your 3 years here, you've never missed a day of work? That you've reported every single minor incident, no matter how trivial? That the cleaning staff specifically requested you for the evening shift because you treat them with respect?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "I just try to do my job." "Your job description doesn't include architectural lectures for curious visitors or staying late to help stranded strangers." William pulled out a manila folder. "It also doesn't include the degree in architecture from UIC that you earned while working 2 jobs to support your family." The folder contained what looked like Marcus's entire life story. Employment records, academic transcripts, even character references from people Marcus hadn't spoken to in years. I don't understand why you're telling me all this. William stood again, walking to the massive windows overlooking the city. 25 years ago, I was where you are now. Different circumstances, but the same core situation. I had dreams, talent, and responsibilities that seemed to make those dreams impossible. He turned back to Marcus, his expression serious. Someone gave me a chance then, not because I asked for it, but because they saw something in me worth investing in. Last night in that lobby, I saw that same something in you. Marcus's heart was pounding so hard, he was sure William could hear it. What are you saying? I'm saying that Chen Development is about to undertake the largest community development project in Chicago's history. Affordable housing, community centers, educational facilities, exactly the kind of buildings you described wanting to create. William returned to his desk and pulled out a thick document. And I'm offering you the chance to lead the architectural team. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He gripped the arms of his chair, sure he must have misheard. What? Full salary, benefits, and the budget to make your vision reality. The only question is, are you ready to stop just dreaming about changing lives and actually start doing it? If this story is touching you in some way, comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Every place has its own struggles, and sometimes it's amazing how we all connect through such human stories. Marcus stared at the contract in William's hands, his mind spinning. Yesterday, he'd been worrying about his mother's prescription and his overdue rent. Today, a billionaire was offering him the chance to build the future he'd only dared to dream about. But as the magnitude of the offer sank in, so did the questions. Why him? What did William really want? And was he truly ready for his entire life to change because of one rainy night and a shared umbrella? Marcus stared at the contract until the words blurred together. Lead architect, community development division. Starting salary, $120,000 annually. The numbers seemed surreal, like something from someone else's life. I need some time to think about this, he finally managed. William nodded, as if he'd expected this response. Of course, but I hope you don't mind if I share why this matters so much to me. He walked back to the windows, gazing out at the city sprawling below. In 1998, I was 28 years old, working as a junior architect for a firm downtown. My parents had sacrificed everything to immigrate here from Taiwan, and I was determined to make their sacrifice worthwhile. But I was stuck, talented enough to see bigger possibilities, not connected enough to access them. Marcus found himself leaning forward, drawn into the story despite his racing thoughts. One night I was working late on a project, pro bono work for a community center in Chinatown. The senior partner, Richard Hartwell, found me there at 2 in the morning, surrounded by blueprints. He could have told me to go home to focus on billable hours like everyone else. William turned back to Marcus. Instead, he asked me about my vision for the project. We talked until sunrise. What happened? He gave me something more valuable than money. He gave me opportunity. 6 months later, I was leading my first major project. 5 years after that, I started Chen Development. William's voice grew quiet. Richard died 10 years ago, but not before seeing the community center we designed together become the heart of that neighborhood. Marcus felt something shift in his chest. You're trying to pay it forward. I'm trying to honor a debt I can never fully repay. William returned to his desk but didn't sit. But I need you to understand this isn't charity. I've reviewed the portfolios of dozens of architects for this project. Your academic work, your understanding of community needs, your vision, you're exactly what this project requires. The phone on William's desk buzzed softly. Catherine's voice came through the intercom. Mr. Chen, your 11 o'clock appointment is here. Give us 10 more minutes, William replied, then looked back at Marcus. I know this is overwhelming. Take the contract home. Review it with your family, with a lawyer if you'd like, but I need an answer by Friday. Marcus stood, clutching the contract like a lifeline. Mr. Chen, I appreciate this more than you know, but I have to ask, what if I'm not ready? What if I disappoint you? William's expression softened. Do you know what I learned watching you last night? You make decisions based on what's right, not what's convenient. That's a quality you can't teach, and it's the foundation of everything else. He extended his hand. I'm betting on your character, Marcus. The skills, the experience, those will come. The elevator ride down felt different this time. Marcus studied his reflection again, but instead of seeing a worried security guard, he saw something else emerging. Possibility. The contract in his hands felt heavier than paper should, weighted with the dreams he'd carried for years. Back at his desk, Marcus tried to focus on his regular duties, but his mind kept drifting. Every time someone walked through the lobby, He wondered if they knew that the building's owner had just offered him a chance to change everything. The thought was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. Around noon, his phone rang. It was Denise. "Marcus, thank God you answered. Mom's doctor called. They need to start her on a different medication. The insurance company is fighting it and—" Her voice cracked. "It's going to cost $400 a month." Marcus closed his eyes. $400? With his current salary, it might as well have been $4,000. "Don't worry, Denise. I'll figure something out." "How? You're already working extra shifts. You're behind on your own bills." "I said I'll figure it out." Marcus's voice came out sharper than he intended. "I always do, don't I?" After he hung up, Marcus stared at the contract again. The starting salary would solve every financial problem his family faced. His mother's medication, Denise's student loans, the overdue rent, all of it would become manageable overnight. But money wasn't the only consideration churning in his mind. What if he failed? What if the other architects on the team resented him for getting the position through what would surely look like favoritism? What if his 3 years as a security guard had made him forget how to be an architect? His phone buzzed with a text from his best friend Tony. "Beer after work? You sound stressed." Marcus realized he must have sounded off during their brief conversation that morning. Tony worked construction, had known Marcus since high school, and had been one of the few people who understood why Marcus had given up his architectural dreams to take care of his family. "Can't tonight. Big decision to make." "Everything okay?" Marcus started to type, "Fine," then stopped. Instead, he wrote, "Maybe. I'll call you later." The afternoon dragged by in a haze of routine tasks and racing thoughts. Every time Marcus looked at his reflection in the lobby's polished surfaces, he saw different versions of himself. The dutiful son who'd sacrificed his dreams for family responsibility. The security guard who took pride in doing his job well, even if it wasn't the job he'd planned. And now, potentially, the architect who could build the community centers he'd dreamed about since college. As evening approached, Marcus made a decision. He needed perspective, and there was only one person whose opinion he truly trusted. At 6 o'clock, instead of heading home, Marcus drove across town to the small house where he'd grown up. His mother, Elena Johnson, was sitting on the front porch despite the cool evening air, wrapped in the quilt his grandmother had made decades ago. "Marcus, baby," she said, struggling to stand. "I wasn't expecting you tonight." "Stay sitting, Mama." Marcus kissed her forehead and settled into the chair beside her. At 62, Elena looked older than her years, but her eyes were still sharp, still filled with the determination that had carried her through raising 2 children alone after their father died. "You look troubled," she said, studying his face with the intensity only mothers possessed. "What's weighing on your heart?" Marcus pulled out the contract, his hands trembling slightly. "Mama, something incredible happened today, but I don't know if I'm strong enough for it." He told her everything about the storm, about William Chen, about the job offer that could change everything. Elena listened without interruption, occasionally nodding, her weathered hands folded in her lap. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the neighborhood where she'd lived for 30 years. It was a good neighborhood, but tired, the kind of place that could benefit from the community centers Marcus dreamed of building. "You remember when you were 8, she finally said, "and you built that elaborate fort in the backyard. You spent weeks on it, planning every board, every nail. Your father was so proud, said you had the mind of an engineer." Marcus smiled at the memory. "I remember. But you were scared to sleep in it that first night. Came running back to the house crying, said it wasn't strong enough." Elena turned to look at him. "You know what your father told you?" "No, Mama." "What?" "He said, son, you built it right the first time. Now you just have to trust your own work." She reached over and took his hand. "You've been building yourself right your whole life, baby. All those sacrifices, all that responsibility you took on. It wasn't just duty, it was preparation." Tears stung Marcus's eyes. "What if I fail?" "Then you fail trying to build something beautiful." Elena squeezed his hand. "But Marcus, what if you don't fail? What if this is exactly what you were meant to do?" As the sun set over Chicago, painting the sky in shades of gold and purple, Marcus felt something settle in his chest. Not certainty, that would come later, but clarity. Tomorrow he would give William Chen his answer. Friday morning arrived with crisp October air, and the kind of golden sunlight that made Chicago look like a postcard. Marcus stood outside the Meridian Tower at 7:45 a.m., 15 minutes before his usual shift, holding 2 items, his signed contract and his umbrella, the same one William had returned to the security desk the day before, with a handwritten note that simply read, "Thank you for reminding me what kindness looks like." The elevator ride to the 42nd floor felt different this time. Marcus's uniform was pressed, his posture straight, and for the first time in years he felt like he was moving towards something instead of just getting by. Catherine Walsh greeted him with a warm smile. "Mr. Johnson, congratulations. Mr. Chen is waiting for you in the conference room." The conference room overlooked Grant Park, and as Marcus entered, he found William standing at the window with 2 cups of coffee and what looked like architectural plans spread across the massive table. "Marcus," William said, turning with a smile that seemed genuinely relieved, "I have to admit I wasn't entirely certain you'd say yes." "Neither was I until Wednesday night," Marcus replied, setting the signed contract on the table. "My mother helped me remember something I'd forgotten." "What's that?" "That sometimes the biggest risk is not taking one at all." Marcus accepted the offered coffee. "She also reminded me that I've been preparing for this opportunity my whole life, even when I didn't know it." William nodded approvingly. "Wise woman, now let me show you what we're building." The plans covering the table were unlike anything Marcus had ever seen, not just blueprints, but a comprehensive vision for an entire neighborhood transformation. Community centers with integrated healthcare clinics, affordable housing that looked like homes rather than projects, educational facilities designed to serve families from pre-K through adult learning. "This is the South Side Project," William explained, pointing to different sections, 12 city blocks that have been underserved for decades. "We're not just building structures, we're creating a community ecosystem." Marcus studied the plans, his architect's eye automatically analyzing sightlines, traffic flow, community integration. "The placement of the community center is brilliant," he said, tracing the central building with his finger. "It anchors everything else, creates natural gathering spaces." "That was your idea, actually." Marcus looked up sharply. "My idea? 3 years ago, you wrote a paper for your urban planning class at UIC, Community-Centered Design, Building Hope in Forgotten Neighborhoods. I had my team track it down." William pulled out a copy of Marcus's old academic work. "Your professor gave you an A+. I give you a chance to make it reality." Marcus stared at his own words from years ago, written when he still believed his dreams were achievable. "You really did your homework." "I had to be certain. This project will impact thousands of lives. I needed to know that the person leading it understood not just architecture but the human element." William moved to another section of the plans. "Your first assignment starts Monday. I want you to spend 2 weeks in the neighborhood, talking to residents, understanding their needs. The preliminary designs are good, but they need your perspective." "My perspective?" "You understand what it means to worry about rent, to choose between groceries and medication, to dream of something better while dealing with immediate survival." William's voice grew serious. "Half the architects I interviewed have never lived in the communities they claim to want to serve. You have. That's invaluable." Marcus felt something click into place, like a puzzle piece finding its proper spot. "When do I start?" "Officially? Monday. But there's something else I need to tell you first." William walked back to the window. "Yesterday I called your current supervisor and explained the situation. You're being promoted to head of building security, effective immediately, with a salary increase that should help with your mother's medical expenses." Marcus blinked in confusion. "I don't understand. I thought I was leaving security to become an architect." "You are. But the transition will take 6 weeks while we finalize permits and assemble your team. I wasn't going to leave you without income during that period." William turned back with a slight smile. "Besides, I like the idea of having an architect as head of security. You'll see the building from both perspectives." The gesture hit Marcus harder than the original job offer. It wasn't just about opportunity, it was about respect, about understanding that Marcus had responsibilities that couldn't wait for bureaucracy. "Mr. Chen, I don't know how to thank you." "Build something beautiful," William said simply. "Build something that matters." An hour later, Marcus stood in the lobby he'd called his workplace for 3 years, but everything looked different. The marble floors that had once seemed like barriers between worlds now looked like foundations for something bigger. The people hurrying through the space weren't just faces. They were potential community members, neighbors, humans with stories and needs and dreams. His phone buzzed with a text from Denise. "Got Mom's new prescription filled. Insurance covered 80% after all. How did you work that miracle?" Marcus smiled, typing back. "Sometimes miracles come disguised as ordinary days. If this story has touched you in some way, please comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Your presence matters, and your story does too." 6 months later, Marcus stood in hard hat and work boots on the construction site that would become the Harmony Community Center. The foundation was poured, the steel framework rising against the Chicago skyline like a promise made visible. "Looking good, boss," called out Tony, who'd left his old construction job to work on the project. "Your mama's gonna be proud when she sees this." Marcus smiled, checking the plans one more time. Elena Johnson had been the first person he'd interviewed for the project, her insights about community needs shaping everything from the children's library to the senior center. She'd cried when he told her the main meeting room would be named in honor of his father. As the afternoon sun slanted across the construction site, Marcus caught sight of a familiar figure approaching. William Chen, looking slightly out of place in his expensive suit among the construction workers, but smiling as he surveyed the progress. "How does it feel?" William asked, joining Marcus at the site's edge. "Like coming home," Marcus replied. "Like everything I've been through led to this moment. Your umbrella philosophy in action." Marcus laughed, remembering that stormy night that had changed everything. "You know what I realized? When you share what you have, even when it's not much, you don't end up with less. You end up with more than you ever imagined." William nodded, looking out at the growing structure. "Richard Hartwell told me something similar years ago. He said the best architecture doesn't just shelter bodies, it nurtures souls." As they stood there, Marcus saw movement in the surrounding neighborhood. Children walking home from school, elderly residents sitting on stoops, families going about their daily lives in a community that would soon have a new heart, new opportunities, new hope. "Mr. Chen," Marcus said, "thank you for seeing something in me that I couldn't see in myself. Thank you for proving that kindness isn't weakness, it's the strongest foundation of all." The sun set over Chicago, painting the construction site in golden light. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, more decisions, the complex work of turning dreams into reality. But tonight, Marcus Johnson, former security guard, current architect, forever believer in the power of simple human kindness, stood on ground that would soon become a beacon of hope for an entire community. All because one rainy night, he chose to share his umbrella with a stranger. Sometimes the smallest acts create the biggest changes. Sometimes a moment of compassion opens doors we didn't even know existed. And sometimes, when we give away the only protection we have, we discover we're stronger than we ever imagined. Now that you've reached the end of Marcus's journey, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Your presence matters, and every place has its own stories of unexpected kindness that change everything.